if everyone could take their seats, please. And Courtney, while you're there, can you pull that door closed? I call to order the regular meeting of the CUSD 201 Board of Education, today, Tuesday, October 14th, 2014. Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
Ms. Caparelli. Here. Mrs. Charlton.
Here.
Mrs. Hancock.
Here.
Mr. Johnson. Mrs. Notbush.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here.
If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We should have had some of the kids hold the flag for us. Okay, the first item on the agenda, are there any public comments? Okay, then the next item, celebrate success with the WTA, please.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Bauerlein, Reading Specialist at Manning Elementary and Co-Vice President of the WTA. On behalf of the entire Manning staff and WTA, I'd like to thank you again for allowing us to be here tonight to share out some of the wonderful things going on in our district and specifically at Manning School this evening. I am so honored to be here tonight to be introducing one of the many wonderful grade level teams we have at Manning Elementary, our kindergarten team. Mr. Workema, Mrs. Perino, and Mrs. Roth are here tonight to talk to you about our full-day kindergarten program. Mr. Andrew Workema is one of the 3 full-day kindergarten teachers at Manning, and he started in the district as an assistant in 2013. He then became the half-day kindergarten teacher and math interventionist at Manning Elementary, and he now teaches a class that is a combination of full and half-day kindergarten. Mrs. Beth Perino has taught at kindergarten at Manning for 5 years and is currently enrolled at Concordia University to receive her master's in reading in December of 2015. And she is also a member of our district's evaluation task force and has also served as snow flurry coordinator. I know I would mess that one up, sorry. Mrs. Mary Roth is another member of our kindergarten team at Manning, and she has previously taught half and full day kindergarten at Hinsdale 181 and Oak Lawn 123. She has been at Manning for 8 years and served as a reading specialist, K-5, and kindergarten teacher. She is also a member of the Illinois Dyslexia Association, Everybody Reads, and the Illinois Reading Council. She is also a certified multisensory structured language teacher and has taken sign language classes through SACID to help students who have language disorders. As you will see through their presentation, the entire Manning kindergarten team is so passionate about students, teaching, learning, and kindergarten. So without further ado, our kindergarten team to talk to you about our full-day kindergarten program. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. I just noticed that there's a screen here, and I don't have a manicure, so I'm not going to put my papers on. As Carrie had mentioned, I'm Mary Roth, kindergarten teacher over at Manning School. So what we'd like to do as a kindergarten team is just share with you how the full-day program is going. And while we're talking about Manning, we're also including things about Miller as well. So thank you for providing 201 students and their families for the opportunity to grow as learners from the beginning of their educational career. Kindergarten is the first real or big kids school for many of these kids. This is a tremendous opportunity that you have granted to 201 students and their parents. This school board has made stunning changes in the academics in the last few years. From the high school accomplishments, I did see the board meeting that the principal did awesome work, and congratulations to you for helping him get to where he needed to go. Most improved high school, a number of AP classes offered. To the South School Early Childhood Center, there's more classes over there, more students receiving quality preschool education that aligns to our Common Core standards in kindergarten. Also, the dual language program, which is in its second year at 201. We wish to thank you and applaud you for making this grand investment in the community. It is time and money well spent. And just a little background for the community at large. I know you are all aware, but we have a TV community here. But this is the second year that we are offering full-day kindergarten. Parents and educators agree that it has made substantial gains for our students. Mr. Carey came to several kindergarten PLC meetings almost 2.5 years ago regarding a full-day kindergarten program. He wanted to know about the scheduling, the classroom space, execution, and costs involved. Manning and Miller kindergarten teachers were provided an opportunity over the summer of 2012 to create a challenging but academically appropriate environment for our young learners. And by the way, because of this opportunity, we were the first grade level to align with Common Core. As educators, we talked to parents and caregivers regarding this often difficult decision about going to a full-day program. As you know, the state of Illinois requires districts to offer only a half-day kindergarten program. It does not require children attend a kindergarten program prior to entering first grade. According to a 2012 Chicago Tribune article, the Illinois State Board of Education states that Illinois has about 1,600 schools providing a full-day program, 332 offering a half-day program, and 338 schools offering both. More and more schools are providing a full-day kindergarten program for their community. Shockingly, we find that students come into kindergarten with no preschool or very little preschool experience. A full-day kindergarten can help students close the gap before first grade. Kindergarten is not the same as it was years ago, and I have a son who's now 27. It is not the same even just 20 years ago. It has changed dramatically. The full-day program allows students to get the academics, but in a more relaxed manner. Just some district statistics for the community at large. Last year, Miller had 17 full-day students. Dual language had 15 students. Currently, Miller now has 13 full-day students and 16 in dual language. Last year, Manning had a total of 42 full-day students and 19 half-day students. Currently, this year, Manning has 53 full-day students and 11 in half-day. The full-day program is growing in 201. Parents and caregivers choose the full-day or the half-day program for a variety of reasons. I would like to read with you just a short message from a 201 district grandparent. She so eloquently writes about the pros and cons about a full-day kindergarten program and how it worked for her family. And while this is about Manning School grandchild, I can tell you there are many more similar stories from Manning and Miller. The reason I would like to share this particular note is because this is a retired school teacher, and she was also a school volunteer in kindergarten. And I'll just read that, and then I'll go on to my partners here. So this is a grandparent that was within the district. She is also a resident of Westmont, living with her daughter and 2 young grandsons. She spent her life working as an educator, first as a kindergarten teacher, then as a preschool director and a teacher, and then later as a 3rd grade teacher. She ended her professional career as a reading specialist. And with that background, it isn't surprising that she was especially excited when her older grandson started kindergarten last year at Manning. When presented with the option of the traditional half-day program or the new full-day program, her daughter and the grandmother debated whether the pros and cons of each. The grandmother leaned toward the half-day program, and her daughter favored the full-day program. In the end, the full-day program was the choice. This woman states that she gives her daughter credit for making what turned out to be such a wise decision. She volunteered regularly in the kindergarten classroom, listened to the children as they read out in the hallway, one at a time. She was amazed at the progress that each of them made month by month. She was able to see the learning environment that the teacher established. There was ample time to provide multiple learning experiences without rushing from one activity to the next, and ample time to reinforce concepts and skills that had been taught. There is no way that a half-day program would be able to afford the students these opportunities. My grandson she states that her grandson is a typical active little boy who loves to run, chase, race, and climb, and I can attest to that. How did he like being stuck in an all-day program? He loved it. He made so many gains socially and emotionally as well as academically. In fact, he began kindergarten unable to read a word, and by the end of the year, he had become a fluent reader. Not only that, he learned to truly enjoy reading. He got off to a good start in kindergarten, which lays the foundation for future success throughout elementary and high school. I hope District 201 will continue to make the decision to continue with the full-day program. So I just wanted to share that with you. I think that just, it goes throughout the community. I've heard from many parents and grandparents with the same statements. So I want to pass it on to my partners. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Perino. I teach kindergarten at Manning. I've taught there for 5 years. I want to agree with Mary. The full-day program has been a huge success. I have only heard wonderful comments from parents and grandparents alike. The thing I'm going to share with you is some comments that were made by our colleagues at school. So we asked first grade teachers what kind of difference they see among the children that came in to first grade this year. Did they notice behavior differences, academic differences? So I'm going to read you the different things that have been made wonderful progress for first graders this year. The first set of items are going to be from the actual first grade teachers. So they first said that the increased stamina to last through a whole day is tremendous. One teacher actually said that on day 5, it's usually what looks like on day 55. So they made 50 days progress of being able to have that stamina for the day. The students are not as reluctant to write at the beginning of the year. We've seen many writing samples of this year, and many of the first grade teachers said that last year they could maybe write I see blank, I can, with those basic sight words and just a few words of their own. But these are creative sentences. These are complex sentences that the children wrote within the first week of school. There's also stronger decoding skills. That's decoding a word, so knowing the sounds. So a stronger sense of letter names and letter sounds, which is a very large focus in kindergarten. They also have a quicker time to generate ideas and thoughts, which helps in writing and reading. Their independent reading stamina is significantly stronger, so they're able to independently do work for a longer period of time. They started this school year with more confidence and more self-reliance. They're overall emotionally, socially, and academically more prepared. One first grade teacher actually said that the kindergarten teachers last year brought huge energy and excitement to the learning environment. The children are also more well-adjusted to the full day of school. In years past, it's been the first few months of first grade is a little bit more painful for first grade teachers. Now the kindergarten teachers are feeling that. A huge thing that all first grade teachers said was the differences in children's writing ability. And with Mr. Workema, when he shares, it will be one of the main reasons why we have a huge difference of their writing ability is because we do writers workshop and a little bit more writing with the full day program. And then the class as a whole, they're making quicker strides, so getting to those goal lines quicker. And one first grade teacher says that the full day program is so positive and a necessary experience for all children. The next group of teachers we received some information from were ELL teachers. And the ELL teachers said about their students that they see that came from kindergarten last year full day, that they're reading 3 to 5 guided reading levels above where they were. And that's a huge, huge step. They also said that at the end of kindergarten, the writing was more complex. They had a stronger ability to incorporate academic vocabulary into their written work, and academic vocabulary is one thing that they really focus on in English language learning. Also, they said that the full day experience also provides more instruction in English for those children who are learning English still. And then this goes for all teachers that provide services at Manning and Miller to our young children. It provides so much more time for services to be presented to those children, whether it be ELL, whether it be a special education service, whether it be some sort of intervention in reading or in math. It provides that ample time so they're not taken away from a larger percentage of their day. We also got some information about from our speech therapist at school, and she said that the pace of our classroom and just the presentation of kindergarten is much more even and calm. That in years past, our speech therapist has provided a social lunch group during lunch hour for children who need a little bit more of that social aspect of language. And kindergartners were not incorporated into that. And last year it was able to be kindergartners were also in that social lunch group. So it gives them an added service. And then also, just like for ELL and other services, this provides that extra time for services for children to receive. So I do want to thank you for offering this program. It has been a huge success. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Workema.
Good evening. I just want to talk really briefly. I'm lucky enough to have really the opportunity to teach both half and full day kindergarten, which I am extremely grateful for because I really believe it allows all my students and myself to be successful, and I'm very excited about that. So I started out as just doing the half day kindergarten in the morning, and then in the afternoon I would work as a math interventionist. That changed, so now I have students who stay only half day and then leave. And then I have other students who go down to lunch, go to recess, and then come back for the afternoon. I think this has been great for both the students who are staying full day and actually a benefit to the students who are still just staying half day even. A few things I just really wanted to talk about is one reason that I'm really grateful for this is my one complaint that I've had at the beginning of the year was there's just not enough time. I would be making plans because I really enjoy the Common Core. I really like it. It pushes both me as an educator and my students as learners at this young age, but it does in a way that they can actually be successful. So that's really helped me to be an educator and them to be learners. That being said, it was a challenge to meet that need in the amount of time I was allotted, but working with both the half-day kindergarten teacher last year, Ms. Blessman, and the kindergarten team here, I think we were doing a fantastic job with it, and my students' work definitely showed that. That being said, I just kind of want to map out what a half-day kindergarten or half day of kindergarten looks like compared to a full day. So for half day, it usually consists of 45 minutes of morning work, calendar, and morning activity. This is pretty much the same as the full day, talking to Ms. Prino and Ms. Roth. It's pretty much the same. After that, we usually have 40 minutes of specials, either gym, library, music. After that, we usually will have 40 minutes of literature instruction, usually using the daily 5, things like that. After that, we would have about 30 minutes of math instruction. That usually left 20 minutes throughout the day for either transitions, mini lessons, read alouds, recesses, snack, things like that, and then the list goes on and on. And so it's a lot to try and fit in just to one morning. After that, it's dismissal, so we have to start packing up, getting ready for the end of the day. Now that I have full day, the added benefit is usually when my students come back, we get to do 3 more rounds of the daily 5. That is very important for my class because what I've been able to do is split my guided reading groups to allow me to meet morning. So I usually meet 2 groups in the morning that are just in the morning, and then in the afternoon, every day I usually get to meet with all 3 of my guided reading groups. So I have a total of 6 guided reading groups, but I only meet 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. This has let me meet the students who only go half day more than they usually would, and this allows me to meet the full day students every day, which is, I just have to say, amazing, because I get to work small group, one-on-one. It's fantastic for me and for my students. Going along with that, in all, my full day students usually get about 100 minutes of literature instruction, which the daily 5 usually recommends 90, so 10 minutes extra, so that's awesome. Going along with that, I also have added about an hours of writer's workshop. I got this amazing writer's workshop program from one of the kindergarten teachers at Miller, and I very much enjoy teaching it, and my students, I think it is one of their favorite times of the day. It allows for creative writing. It allows them to really come up with those creative sentences and creative topics. Really all they need to do is give me a topic, say their sentence, and then they get to go write, and it's one of those things they get to go brave spell it, they get to go give it their best effort. It's really great because I'm already having students taking more risk with their spelling, taking more risk with their ideas. I don't have any more copycats when I demonstrate. I'm going to write about my family. I don't have 10 kids writing about their families. I actually have them writing about ideas they want to write about, which is great. Going along with that, I also have more math instruction. I usually do 30 minutes of bonus math instruction in the morning or in the afternoon. This allows for a lot more instruction on the topics I've already instructed on in the morning. Things like using more manipulatives, things like that, because I have the time. Going along with that, they also get lunch and recess. This doesn't seem like a big thing because it's not instruction, but it is so important. Being able to see my students, I am out there for recess duty. The first day they were a little shy, but since then they've already really folded in, and it's really nice seeing them in the hall having more friends in kindergarten than just those, oh, I went to preschool with them. Oh, now I can ask, like, how do you know them? Oh, I know them at recess. We played this game. Things like that. It really allows for those connections that will make it in first grade a lot easier to integrate into a class. They also receive art and an extra gym class. Both of those are very important. I know several of my students really look forward to art class because who doesn't like art? Going along with that, it really allows more time for me to differentiate between my students. I get more time to work one-on-one. I get more time to work on small groups. And I really get more time to assess and make sure that all students are going to mastery. This isn't just for the full-day students. It is also for the half-day students because I am able to kind of make sure I'm taking my time in the morning and really going through all my lessons carefully because I now have the time. First of all, for me, I'm just concentrating on kindergarten for now. And then also because by the time that I get done instructing, I really realize, okay, this is what the confusion's still on. This is what I need to go back and reteach, things like that. Really, it's been a very great experience doing the full and half day. I really do think the full day program is truly a blessing for several of my students and for this district as a whole. So I just want to thank you guys so much for offering this opportunity to all of our students. And thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Mrs. Roth, for sharing that letter. We don't, excuse me, we don't always get that type of response from parents. I know they send those things off to the teacher, and it's nice. Yeah, it's nice to get that feedback. We have to live a little bit vicariously through those since this was implemented, both the expanded preschool and the full-day kindergarten after our children had gone beyond that age. But, you know, having 3 kids, I could say each one of them would have benefited for a different reason from the expanded preschool and the full-day kindergarten program, especially the ability to receive special education services on an ongoing basis and more intensely early on, and that social-emotional development, which is so critical and really can accelerate so much quicker the younger the student is. So very excited, still very excited about the program, and I'm happy to hear from parents about that. Thank you.
I just wanted to quickly say, too, it's nice to hear that there's results happening in the first grade level already, because that's, I mean, after 1 year, it's nice to know that the teachers are seeing a difference, so I think that's very important, so thank you.
I just want to say 2 things. Number one, it was also, again, living vicariously through all of you. It's nice to hear 2 things, the structure of the day for the half day and the full day, because I know there was some question about, well, what would happen to those morning students. So to hear you speak about that you can have one-on-one time with the morning students and then save the time for the afternoon for those students that are there, that's, to me, that's a real, you know, something that you can hold on to and speak to. So I really appreciate hearing that. And 2, all the more research that we keep hearing about, the earlier that you get students going down the path of education, the more successful they are. So I'm also very happy to hear about the progress, and be happy to see how it goes as we go along. So thank you.
I just want to mention one thing. obviously your enthusiasm for this expanded program is paying off in great ways. I mean, to hear the comments that the first grade teachers are making about the structure, and it sounds as though you're all using this time brilliantly. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Okay. That's always a good part of the meeting, so thank you. Thank you for taking the time and coming and sharing that with us and the community. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Just wanted to let everybody know that there's an updated memo in your folders that we got tonight, so if you want to make sure you have that. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations. Number 2, approval of student tour requests. And 3, resolution to dispose of district property.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the
Marie,
present.
can I make a quick suggestion?
Oh, sure.
Since we have young students in the room, maybe we want to flip 2 and 1 here?
Sure, is that okay with you? Ms. Anderson? Okay. All right, I think that's a good idea. Let's start with the referendum presentation. Just so we all know what's happening, Mr. Carey is going to be giving the presentation, the factual slide presentation for one reason for the people at home who might not be able to get to one of the meetings. Please, if you can get to one of the meetings, please try to do so. But for those that don't, we're going to have the presentation here. And then we've had a request from our parent group to come and speak to us, so we're happy to allow that to happen. So, Mr. Carey.
Thank you. And as Marie mentioned, this is the presentation that we're doing at all the different dates that we have during the month of October. And this is basically the facts behind the referendum. And so we provide a little bit of background information, the focus on what our building projects are, and then the existing deficiencies, our proposed solutions, and then the cost of the projects, and ultimately how we would fund the projects. And as soon as it advances, there it goes. Just some background information. Our school district has been involved in facility planning dating all the way back to 2007. And during the course of that planning, we had several committees that were formed. We had input from community members, from parents, from school district personnel. And ultimately, we arrived at what we termed our short-range projects, our mid-range projects, and then ultimately our long-range projects. And during the course of the summers of 2012 and 2013, we focused on the higher priority, the short-range projects, and we were able to use our current debt service extension base, and we issued bonds in order to pay for those projects. And the focus was improving the educational environment. And so to briefly just review those projects at Manning, we did some asbestos abatement, new computer lab, new media center, some additional classroom space because we had large groups of students moving through the building. We created some small group instruction areas to help with response to intervention and with our special education program. And then we also had window air conditioners installed in all of our classrooms. At Miller Elementary, the projects were very similar. The asbestos abatement, again, a computer lab, a new media center, a new kindergarten classroom, the small instructional spaces, and then also the window units for all the classrooms. At Westmont High School, we had to do some boiler replacement, windows for all the exterior classrooms of the building. And then in preparation for one-to-one technology, we had to upgrade the wireless network infrastructure. At South, in order to, again, to accommodate some of the class sizes that we had at Manning, we relocated the district office over to South. We created our early childhood center, which also increased the number of students we're able to have in the program, and then also the asbestos abatement. And then at the junior high school, because that building had the most recent upgrades, if you can call 1986 recent, but that had the most recent upgrades. And so again, anticipating one-to-one technology, we upgraded the wireless network. And then we reconvened another committee to kind of look at the next set of projects and what the focus of the district should be. And again, one of the very consistent messages that every group that we've had in terms of planning for our facilities, one of the consistent messages is that we need to improve the safety and security of our buildings, the accessibility of ADA compliance of our schools, and then also, as we're doing that, anything that we can do to continue to improve the educational environment of our schools. And that, again, was consistent in 2007. It was reiterated again in 2009. And then 2011 was the most recent facility committee. And again, that was what they deemed the priorities for our schools. And so for our next objectives for our projects, for Miller and Manning, junior high and the high school, we want to improve security and safety. Miller and Manning, we really need to improve the handicap accessibility. And then at the high school and the junior high, as we're accomplishing those goals, we're also going to be improving the educational environments. So Miller and Manning, again, the projects are very similar to what we did when you look at the two buildings. We want to create secure visitor and student entrances at Miller and Manning for both of our schools. Right now, when you're allowed to enter the building, you really aren't on a direct right to the main office, but you can go to the upper levels, the lower levels, without ever having to enter the office of either school. We need to improve the handicap accessibility and ADA compliance. Right now, we have lifts in both Manning and Miller, which most of the time meet our needs, but especially seems like more with our parents and our students. But there are weight restrictions on the lifts, and so in some instances, we're not able to use the lifts to move someone from one floor to the other, and so we have to make other accommodations. We also want to have ADA code-compliant door handles at both buildings. Right now, if we're in a lockdown situation, not all the doors have a push-button locking mechanism, and so we want to change that so that, again, it improves the safety for our buildings. Improve fire safety with fire suppression for both buildings. At Miller, we also want to improve the art and music space and additional meeting space. And then at Manning, work on the handicap accessible restrooms. At the junior high was built as an open classroom floor plan, and over time we have enclosed some of those classrooms, but not all of our classrooms are enclosed. So not every classroom is behind a door. So again, if you're in a lockdown situation, you really can't lock down that space. And so again, we have to be creative how we try to create a safe environment for our students. When we're going through that process, we have some very large teaching spaces, some small teaching spaces, and so we want to balance those teaching spaces so that there's equitable space. In order to accomplish that, there has to be significant changes to the heating, the air conditioning, ventilation, and then also the lighting in order to do that. And then we have some of the same issues with our door handles at the junior high that we have at Manning and Miller, and so we want to replace those door handles. At the high school, again, it needs to have a secure entrance. And when we refer to a secure entrance, those who are familiar with our buildings, with the junior high, when you're buzzed into the building, you enter the vestibule, but you can't enter the rest of the building. You have to go into the office. You need to be buzzed into the rest of the building, allowed to have access to the rest of the building. So that's what we want to do for the high school, for Manning, and for Miller, is to create that same type of entrance. The reason why we did the windows for that first set of projects is because the long-term goal for the high school, again, it was an open classroom floor plan. Over time, they've been able to somewhat enclose the spaces, but if none of the walls reach the ceiling, we still have open classroom spaces, and so we want to enclose all of our classroom spaces. Again, there will be significant changes to the heating, the air conditioning, the mechanicals, the lighting, and then create lockable classrooms, because right now, again, if you don't have a door on a classroom, you can't lock down the classroom. The high school is also unique. It has 3 different fire suppression systems within the high school, which can be problematic when you have the fire department respond. And so we want to consolidate that into one fire suppression service. In terms of the floor plans, and these are updated floor plans for us, the blue area that this would be Miller, that represents the structure that we would have in order to create the secure entry, and then also in order to assist with the ADA compliance, an elevator will be incorporated into that as well. The green area and the pink area, that gets to asbestos abatement again. Anytime that we're working on our buildings, we try to do that. And then also what is required for fire suppression at Miller. At Manning, the same thing, the blue area, that would be the area that would be constructed to create the secure entry for the visitors and for our students. Also incorporate an elevator as well for the handicap accessibility. One of the things that we're considering too is similar to Miller. Miller has a drive that you can swing into for drop off and pickup. Manning doesn't have that right now, so we'd like to create that on the Linden side of Manning, and then possibly some visitor parking across the street. And then again, asbestos abatement, and then the fire suppression. For the junior high, basically again, it's balancing class sizes and then changing the mechanicals in order to accommodate that. And then for the high school, the pink area at the top is where the secure entry would be. So again, you would enter into the vestibule, into the main office, and then the classrooms would all be enclosed in order to create better teaching and learning environments. In terms of the cost of the projects, for Miller, it would be approximately $4.1 million. For Manning, it's approximately $8.4 million. For the junior high, $5.3 million. And for the high school, $8.6 million. So total for those projects would be $26.4 million. In terms of how do you fund those projects, we do have a referendum question on the November 4th ballot. The question is different than what we asked last spring. Last spring, we asked about the debt service extension base to increase that. So essentially, what that would have allowed the district to do was to issue bonds as long as we didn't exceed our debt service extension base. And so basically, it's the amount that we can pay back in loans on an annual basis. The feedback we got when we asked that question was that some of our community members saw that as a blank check for the district. And the way they view that is once the district paid for those projects, issued the bonds for those projects, paid off those bonds, that the district could continue to issue bonds and not go back to the taxpayers for that permission. And so they were not comfortable with that solution. This question is more traditional. It basically is asking the members of the Westmont community to approve bonds in the amount of $26 million in order to improve the sites and the safety and security of and alter the repair and equip our school buildings. And so it says right there in the question that those dollars have to be used for the improvement of our schools. We couldn't issue the bonds and turn around then and pay teacher salaries with those or pay for our transportation costs. But they truly have to be used for the improvement of our buildings and in terms of those projects that we've identified. And so hopefully for our community members now, they will be happier with this solution with the funding mechanism because definitely, and once we complete those projects, we do have to go back to our community and ask a question again if we want additional bonds for additional projects. In terms of the what it means, the impact to the taxpayer, and I know the print is small on this, and again, we have this presentation on our website. The far right-hand corner is what most people are concerned about. For a $250,000 home, which is the average market value in our district, it'd be approximately $345 a year. That would be a stable cost. We don't anticipate that fluctuating. We do have a calculator on our website, so if the value of your property is greater than $250,000, there is a calculator on the website so that you can input the value of your home, and it will tell you what the annual cost of for the bond payments. This next slide basically shows in the blue is what our current bonds, outstanding bonds are, and then in the green would be the additional cost. And after 2018, that bond payment could decrease. So your tax rate that's on your tax bill is actually made up of two different rates. One of them is the bond and interest rate. And so that portion could decrease if the district doesn't issue non-referendum bonds. So the district would still have that ability. But even if the district did, it would not exceed the bond amount for 2014 through 2018. In terms of the timing, with a successful referendum on November 4th, 2014, the initial impact would be the spring of 2015, assuming that the district issues the bonds this spring. And then if individuals want additional information, again, on our website, we have a link to referendum information, and it includes the PowerPoint, frequently asked questions, and then we also have some upcoming informational meetings. Our next will be October 16th, which is Thursday at Miller Elementary, and then we have one on the 22nd at South, on the 27th at Westmont Junior High, and on the 30th at Westmont High School, and all those meetings will start at 7 o'clock. And that's the information.
Okay. I know that, like, again, just for clarification, board members cannot advocate for or against the referendum, but there certainly can be discussions. However, I think probably the most important thing right now would probably be to have our parent group come and speak to us and let us hear what the parent group is doing.
Thank you to the school board of CUSD 201 for having us here this evening. We cherish this opportunity to reach out to the community with an important message about the referendum that will appear on the ballots on November 4th. But first, please let me introduce us. We are parents of students in CUSD 201. We are homeowners in Westmont and Clarendon Hills. We are registered voters in this voting district, and we came together as soon as the referendum was approved by this board. We are encouraging everyone to attend the informational meetings that Mr. Carey and Mrs. Anderson are hosting. As Mr. Carey just pointed out, there's one this week, Thursday, Miller School, 7 p.m. But we're here today because we are, quite frankly, scared. We call ourselves SOS. It's an acronym that signals distress, the need for help. In our case, it stands for Secure Our Schools. I am Courtney Templeton. I have a second grader and a fourth grader at Manning Elementary.
I'm Liz Rathburn. I have a second grader and a fifth grader at Manning.
I am Julie Muncie, and I have a first grader and fourth grader at Manning.
I'm Mike Graham.
I'm Erin Graham.
We have three boys, one in sixth grade at the junior high, third grade at Miller, and then a 5-year-old who will be at the full-time kindergarten next year.
Hello, I'm Melanie Sleeper. I have a sixth grader at the junior high, and I have a fifth grader at Manning.
We and others who could not be here tonight have been meeting collectively ever since the school board approved the initiative for the placement of the referendum on the ballot. We knew we had to spread the word about the implications of the results of this election. We are wearing our buttons. We have been placing signs around the community. We have written letters to the editor. We have been interviewed by the newspaper and written letters that we have circulated throughout our neighborhoods. We have been busy. Yes, there was a referendum on the ballot back in March. We are very aware that it failed. The board understands that the community was wary of the funding mechanism. This time, the projects are the same, but the financing is different. Every voter should understand that this is a bond measure and not an increase to the debt ceiling. We need everyone to understand what this $26 million would fund. It is also important to note that the last time this district had a successful referendum was 1985. This district has done a very good job of doing what they can with the money that they have, like all-day kindergarten. But it's time for us, the community, to step up to the plate for these important safety facility improvements. Furthermore, it is also important to state that this bond package allows work to be done at each of our schools. We are a unit school district, so it's important that every facility improvements are being made so that all of our children reap the benefits. While we hate to admit it, our world today is not as safe as we would like it to believe it is. We all remember fire drills and tornado drills when we were growing up. Our children today have another drill that has them practice what to do when an intruder, potentially armed, comes into the school building. It's horrible that we even have to do this, but it's necessary. Unfortunately, the physical buildings in our district are not as safe and secure as they could or should be. At both of our elementary schools and the high school, an unknown visitor need only press a button and claim a meeting to be admitted to the school. The staff at each school works to ensure that every person comes directly to the office to sign in. But someone with other motivations could easily access any part of those schools upon entry into the building. The doors of the classroom do not even lock from the inside. We need security. There are open staircases that, in the event of a fire, would not provide a safe exit for students and staff. Fire suppression needs to be addressed. We need safety. We have students at all of our schools whose handicaps challenge their daily educational experience. For example, at Manning, there is a student who uses a wheelchair who spends valuable time each day on a lift in order to get from one floor to the next. It's slow. When that lift is in service, other children and adults cannot use that stairwell. I've tried. How much time is wasted just waiting? We need accessibility. Both the junior high and the senior high schools were built in the 70s when open classrooms were all the rage. However, those schools' classrooms are sized unevenly, and many of them, especially at the high school, do not have enclosing walls or secure doors. Another one of the highlights of this bond package is addressing and fixing the learning environment for our students. Imagine taking a calculus class next door to a Spanish class, watching a film in Spanish. And if there was ever an intruder at either the junior or senior high school, the students in those open classrooms do not have a door that locks. We need classroom enclosures. They don't even have a door. Voting yes in November means passing this referendum at the least expensive time. Interest rates are at historic lows and construction costs are reasonable. If we don't pass it now, it won't go away. These projects have to happen because the schools just aren't up to standards and codes. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Westmont Police Department conducted its first ALICE drill. Alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate. With our school children to show them what to do when an armed active shooter enters one of our schools. The results are disturbing. The staff and students are called upon to deter the individual, to deny the shooter targets, to delay the shooter from finding them, to hide, and to tackle the shooter and save others. The Westmont Police Department had students practice the 3 worst steps using an officer dressed in a gorilla costume because they know the first step cannot be reliably done at all of our schools. So we need your help. You might want to think that the worst can't happen here, but the ALICE drills show our police are already bracing for the worst. We owe the district's boys and girls better than this. It's fantastic that our district and our police department are proactive in teaching our students what to do in the worst scenario. But it's our responsibility to our children to secure the buildings in the best way that we can. We have to do more than just train them to protect themselves. It's our job, it's our entire community's job to protect the most vulnerable members of our community. There's been some negative literature and Facebook discussion.
Let me briefly address the no means no letter that was circulated anonymously. It was erroneous and contained faulty logic. The 2012 improvements were not funded by a tax increase. The conversion of South School and the classrooms at Manning and Miller have nothing to do with this referendum. The elevator and principal's office improvements have everything to do with security, safety, and bringing our buildings up to code. This is not a substantial tax increase. For the average home, it can be broken down to $25 a month, less than $1 a day, for priceless improvements to the school buildings. The board did listen. They changed the referendum question and the funding. What hasn't changed is what is needed desperately. Yes, there is a price tag for safety. There is no denying that. But isn't the safety of our students worth it? Let's not leave CUSD 201 vulnerable to be the next Sandy Hook or Columbine. Let's act now and be the schools that no shooter would think of coming to. Answer the SOS. Vote yes. Our kids, our future, our responsibility. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the committee that wanted to speak? Gary, did you want to say something?
I guess, first, thank you, everybody, on the committee and that presentation. That was wonderful. Kevin, I guess I just want to cover one thing again and make it clear. You talked about what the bonds would cost, and you talked about in 2018 how there are current bonds coming off the books. So potentially at that time, the tax rate would actually lower, even though it would be an increase now. In 2018, there could potentially be a decrease. Am I reading that correctly?
Right.
Am I understanding
Right.
that correctly?
If the district chose not to issue the non-referendum bonds at that time, yes, it could.
Yeah, because those are the current bonds that we took out a couple years ago on those projects. Okay.
Can I interrupt for a second? I just want to say thank you to the parents and probably more importantly to the students who took the time to come here and express your thoughts. So as they're all leaving, I'd just like to say thank you. Yeah. Well aware, but as we go on with the conversation, I just wanted to say thank you. Okay. Sorry, Gary.
I guess I would have one more question. It would be, I guess, more directed for Kim, but a couple of meetings ago, somebody stood up and said that we've been, I don't know, banking $7 million in money or something. Could you please give us some better definition of that?
Well, we're just wrapping up the audit. It'll be finished tomorrow. But on an unaudited cash basis, we do have about a $7 million fund balance from FY10 to FY14, changed by $7 million. But on an audited basis, it's about $4.5 million. And some of that surplus is, there is some surplus in the O&M fund, and as the Buildings and Grounds Committee met over the summer, we have we identified 5 years worth of projects, and for this current school year, we got the okay to decrease our fund balance by a few $100,000 to start working on some of those outstanding projects. So we do have some balance in the O&M fund that's a reserve, and we've started to work on some of the projects. We have probably over about $5 million worth of projects in the district that need to be done. Those include roofs, parking lots, some HVAC, tuck pointing, some electrical upgrades, all projects that, and that's more than the capacity that we have in the O&M fund. We do also, the board established, I think a couple years ago, a fund balance policy, and we're working to maintain our ratios at that 45% fund balance policy as a minimum standard. So that's our target.
And those projects aren't part of this
No, no.
Right, those are all outside that, okay.
outside, yeah.
Outside this.
And really, as I recall correctly, there when everything kind of crashed in the world back there in 2008, a lot of those fund balances were drained to help keep the district.
Correct. And one of the things, the district, before Kevin and I arrived, went through some very difficult times and did a lot of budget cuts that I think, obviously were very difficult on the district. And over the last several years, we've worked to be very fiscally conservative in our spending. We've aligned our salary contracts to increases tied to CPI, which matches our revenue that comes in, which has definitely helped the district be where they need to be, but also really prudent, thoughtful spending. And, one of the things, sometimes you're criticized if you're deficit spending and you don't have surpluses, and then on the other side, when you start to build up some reserves for that rainy day to make your district really fiscally sound, then you receive criticisms on the other end. So one of the things, I think that we've done a good job of managing the district's money, the taxpayers' money, in a very sound fiscal manner, and I think the district should continue to do that. The reserve, where our fund balance ratio in the ed fund is right where it should be, at the 45%. And there's, obviously unknowns. One of the things, like, we worked in the transportation fund to increase our fund balance over the last several years because the state funding has changed so much. They're prorating regular education, transportation reimbursement. We receive about $40,000. We spend about $500,000. And special education funding has been prorated. And they're just finalizing those figures now, but I think that's at about 98% funding. And then, of course, our general state aid has been prorated. In the ed fund, we also are looking at a potential loss of $1 million of revenue if Senate Bill 16 is approved. We already know that it's been approved by the Senate.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, and so we're waiting on the House. And so to have some reserves in our fund in case that comes to fruition is a good thing. We still don't know what's going to happen with the pension legislation. That was the last hot topic last year, and that still hasn't been resolved. So again, being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' money and having some reserves in the district is a good thing.
I would agree.
Before we leave that topic, I have a question, Kim, and I know I've asked you this before. There are some people, myself included, who are not financial wizards, and I really do rely on yourself and Kevin and stuff. So, and I've had this question posed to me, so I am really glad that we have an opportunity to talk about this. So, the fact is, we don't have $7 million sitting in a bank somewhere. We have money allocated for very specific things that cannot be you just can't rip this money out of O&M or transportation or whatever to pay for the specific projects we're talking about. Am I?
Right.
I don't mean to oversimplify things, but I'm just trying to, answer some of the questions, or try to answer some of the questions that I've received. So,
Well, we levy in funds for specific purposes. So in the education fund, it's for instruction of students. In the operations and maintenance fund, it's for maintaining our buildings and grounds. Transportation, obviously, is for transporting our students to and from school and athletic and extracurricular activities. For the IMRF and Social Security funds, those are for, pension and retirement benefits. And then tort is for our litigation and our some of our insurance needs. So, there are certain reasons why we levy in each of those funds. Now, you can do some transfers if you need to, but they would have to be approved by the board. But again, again, in the ed fund, there's not really money to be shifting around, especially given the unknowns with the Senate Bill 16 and maintaining our fund balance policy. In the O&M fund, we have more projects than we have money to do, and so that's where we
Okay,
stand there.
I appreciate that, and as I was kind of putting this together in my own head, it's almost like, you know, I am thrilled that we are finally in a position that we can have a cushion there if we had a couple extra students that needed, you know, transportation that was over and above what we currently have and things like that. But as I was trying to think about this in my head, it's almost like we all have a budget at home and we have to pay the mortgage and the electric company and the, you know, all the different things, you know, retirement accounts and everything like that. And so you couldn't just take your whole salary and then just go like add a wing to your house, because while you're doing that, you still have all these other things to pay for. Am I oversimplifying, or is there some thought that what we're doing is we have these, as they like to say, buckets of money that need to stay in those buckets to pay for those things, and the fact that the referendum question is for specific projects? Is that oversimplifying, or am I understanding?
Number one, we don't have enough reserve to pay the debt service on $26 million. If you're going to do $26 million of projects, you do need to issue bonds to be able to pay the debt service.
One more thing as I'm saying this. So Kevin, can you answer one question? I know it's probably in the frequently asked question, but I know the one question that came up, what if this referendum didn't pass? How long would it take to do these projects? It would be done over, it could possibly be done over a very lengthy period of time, right? Like, didn't you talked about it one time, like
20-plus years.
20-plus years?
Yeah, to do them all.
Just to do these projects that are, okay. Okay, that's all I have for now.
Anybody?
But, so,
I have a question. Kim, can you revisit for us, because we've had a public speaker reference the $8 million that Manning gets. So was it last year the community came together and voted for the TIF district, and the school district stands to possibly lose some dollars on that? But the $8 million comes with caveats. Can you explain how that's structured and over the course of time, how we receive the, I don't expect you.
I didn't bring all that information with me, and I wish I had photographic memory, but I don't. But anyway, the district did come to an agreement with the village regarding the TIF, and we can receive up to, I think it was $15 million over the life of the TIF from TIF revenues. Now, it's been in a place of about a year or whatever, and the district has not received any TIF revenues. And I don't know if I brought, I do have the EAV, and I can put that in the frequently asked questions. There is a small portion of our EAV that's, allocated to the TIF right now. It's
Because
a very small
I
portion.
think if I'm not mistaken, the TIF, the life of the TIF is 26 years, is that correct? I think it's 26 years. Is that ringing any bells?
24, 26.
24 or 26 years. And so those dollars come, if they come, they're coming over the course of the lifetime of the TIF. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
And the district has not received any TIF revenues at this point.
Thank you.
And the only way we will receive TIF money is if the TIF district that the village has set up is successful. So we won't just receive $8 million anywhere.
Right. And if people go down Cass Avenue, you really haven't seen much redevelopment there yet.
I had one more. There was another question out there that's been asked, and I just want to get some clarity on it, as I recall, because I was in that committee meeting when Steve Cashman mentioned it, but people were asking, what's it cost to build a brand-new school? And I remember Mr. Cashman saying that to build one school that would house all the elementary students, which would be approximately the same amount of high school students that we have, that would be about $40 million. Is that the figure that you remember him saying? So, so to the people who think we should just try to build one school, even $26 million won't even come close to building one new school on any level. So
That also cuts out the other schools that we're trying to do something at each of our buildings with, which I think is critical. So.
Okay, I have another question. One of the things Courtney spoke to was the fact, again, that the district hasn't had a referendum since 1985. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but can you have any of the figures of how old each of these buildings are offhand? I know that I know the high school was built in the 70s.
Yeah,
right?
76.
76. The junior high,
Approximately the same time.
probably the same time. We know Manning's been like a cut and paste for so many years, right? For all these.
1926 was the original part.
1926 was the original
And
one.
then it was added on.
So it's been added
Twice.
on too,
Added on twice.
yeah. Miller's had
Was that the 50s?
50s or something like that.
56.
Yeah. So, I guess it is something to look at that, you've got these buildings that through the sheer will of the work of the district and the finance and that we've been able to take care of. And so I think it is a good point of reference out there to just note how old these buildings are. And that this work is out there and that the facilities committees have requested that work to be done. So anyway.
Well, I just think, it was good to have a little bit of history of all the committees that have met, over the last almost decade. And they just keep coming up with the same list of items that need to be addressed. And, the district does what it can to address them with the resources available, but the list doesn't really seem to change much over these three separate committees. So.
I remember something you said, Mary Kay, about a year ago or something, that we keep hearing about the walls and windows of high school, and now we can at least cut that in half. And you had said how happy you were with that. And it's interesting how, for so long, anyone who's ever been in high school has been talking about walls and windows for so long. But it's now, one of the things that you talked about, Courtney, and the committee was, it's not just the learning environment anymore. It's taken on a whole new avenue not to have a door and a wall in a room. It's unfortunately where we live, in the world we live in now, it's taken on a whole different meaning. So, the walls, the contractor at the time was not hired by anybody here in this room or anybody that we know. But anyway, it just was interesting to think about that the walls have been talked about for so long. Now it takes on a whole other set of importance, so.
I guess I had one more, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just going to make the point that listening and watching to some of the discussions that have been going on in the community over the last many weeks, just want to remind people that this referendum isn't about politics, and it's not about a yes or no vote for the Board of Education. It's not about a yes or no vote for politics in Westmont. It's a very specific list of projects. And the yes or no vote, however you choose to vote, if you choose to vote, which we hope you will, that everybody in the community, all of us as individual voters, as well as anybody else who's going to go to the polls on that day, just be aware that this isn't about any of us as individual school board members. It's not about politics in our village. It's not about any of those things. It's about you're voting yes for this set of projects for this money, or you're voting no for this set of projects and this money. And that is the complete extent to which your vote
says something, because it's not a referendum on the school board. And I hope that people remember that when they go to the polls, and they'll remember that whether you like or dislike any of us as individuals or as a board, that this vote is about what needs to be done in the buildings. And your vote, yes or no, is simply limited to that. And there are many other opportunities to vote on whether you like us or not. Unfortunately, this is not one of them. And I just really hope as a resident and a taxpayer and a board member that when people go to cast their vote in November, that they'll remember what they're voting for. I think that's very important for our community.
Well said. Did you have something, Gary?
I just had one more question on the TIF district. If I recall correctly, if and when any of that money does come in, can't some of that money also be used to offset the tax increase to the homeowner? As I recall, isn't that, I mean, but it'd be up to that board at that time, whenever that actually happened. And I guess it would also be up to the voters to remind the board at that time to be fiscally responsible with those funds. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. Okay.
So the TIF funds have to be used for the property within the TIF district.
Right.
Period. And I think it's 23 years, I think.
Yeah.
I think
Thank
so.
you.
It is 15 million, but my other notes don't get the.
And that's in the best case scenario that we estimated, which we're in what year of this?
One.
Okay, so we're at 0 so far.
Zero.
If you go back and look at the chart from the TIF district discussions about how much we, the district, would potentially be able to get reimbursed by the village on an annual basis, you'll see that we are at 0 currently on that chart,
Yeah,
which
we
is not
reached
what we
our-
were hoping for, obviously.
Reached our agreement in May of 2013.
I think it's probably important to remind people what happens with the TIF, that we are at a standstill for every property within the TIF district. We see no increase
From those properties.
from those properties. If those taxes go up within the TIF district, that does not benefit the school district. We are at a lock. So.
Well, I would like to first say thank you to both Kim and Kevin, who have spent much time getting these factual presentations out there and to let people know and to answer the questions. I know that from what I've seen from being at the one meeting, every time someone does ask a question, it seems like the frequently asked questions show back up on the website, so that if there's a question that one person has, someone else probably has it too, I'd like to say thank you very much to the parents who are obviously very passionate, and the members that are here, and then even the ones that are not here. And so thank you for just your passion about talking about what it is that the district is looking to potentially do. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next meeting, informational meeting, is Thursday.
Thursday at Miller.
At Miller, 7
7
o'clock.
o'clock.
Open to the public, not just
Right,
Miller,
it's open to
everybody
all
who
community
wanted to come
members.
and stuff, so. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all. Thank you for your information, Kim. Okay, now we will move back to Kim, presentation of monthly financial statements.
Okay, again, not a whole lot new. This month you have the cash basis fund balance, you have investments for the month, and the student activity accounts presented. In terms of revenues, the district received about $99,000 from the state this month, and there's about $1,100 of FY14 payments that have been vouchered but not released, and no FY15 payments have been vouchered but not released at this time. We did receive another small installment of the 2013 tax levy in the amount of about $309,000, and we've collected 51.7% of the tax levy so far. This is a little bit lower than what we had received over the past 3 years at this time. Again, revenues in the tort and ed funds are just slightly below the prior year average. And in the O&M fund, they're slightly higher. And in the transportation fund, revenues are quite a bit lower, but that's really a result of the timing of state payments. And so as you recall, last year, the state paid their transportation fund payments on time. The year before, prior years, we've gotten those payments in July, so that's why our revenues are down, because we actually received revenues when we were supposed to last year. In the ed fund, expenditures are comparable to the prior year, and in the O&M fund, they're just slightly higher than the prior year and below the prior average. O&M fund is 11.9% spent to date, and last year it was 11.52%, so we're right where we need to be. And then expenditures in the transportation fund are lower than the prior year averages, and again, this is just based on timing of receiving invoices for some of our summer transportation and the start of the school year. So we hadn't received a lot of our special ed invoices yet. So, does anyone have questions?
Okay, thank you. The next item, Superintendent's Report.
Just a couple items. One is that Sheila Rue, who is the Westmont Junior High School Media Specialist, was the recipient of the Illinois Reading Council Service Award, and she was presented that at the Illinois Reading Council Conference that just took place. And so congratulations to Sheila on that award. And then to just reiterate once more, there are several referendum informational meetings coming up. Thursday, October 16th at Miller, and then we have one October 22nd at South, October 27th at Westmont Junior High, and then October 30th at Westmont High School, and all those meetings start at 7 o'clock. Those dates are also on our website, in addition to the PowerPoint presentation and the frequently asked questions document.
And the election is November 4th.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Kevin?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Are there any board reports?
I just want to congratulate the football team. It was a great game Friday night. Way to go, guys. I also understand the PVPN group was donating, I think it was $25 for every touchdown that they got to the Westmont Boosters. It was $250 worth of donations, so
Very good.
congratulations to them.
Nice. Very nice. Yes, that would look like a great, great evening. Any other board reports? No? Okay, are there any public comments? Okay, then before we adjourn, just a couple of future things. The High School Jazz Cafe is October 15th at 7 o'clock at the high school, and the next school board meeting will be 2 weeks, October 28th, 7 o'clock here in the Village Hall. So the chair will entertain a motion to enter a closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, and probable litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes, and there will not be a vote after closed.
Bless you.
Bless you.